What's going on, guys? I'm hanging here at the office. Got most of my stuff done, I think. And just want to check in, do another live stream with you guys, answer any potential questions you guys have about sync licensing, about, I don't know, anything. Anything that you guys think that I can maybe be helpful for. I would love to be able to help you guys out with that. We had a great weekend. I was just there for a day. But Trevor's company, Get It Done Music, just had an amazing co-writing camp, collaborative camp. I don't exactly know what they called it, but it was basically a lot of his producers, vocalists, artists that are on the Get It Done roster coming into North Hollywood at a studio and basically making music together. So there was 2 rooms. One room you had, I don't know, there was probably like 6 or 7 people in there. Some of them were working on their own music with a laptop. Others were kind of collaborating on like this kind of big song from the big speakers. And then there was a small intimate room where just 2 people were kind of working on something. And I don't know, it was just really cool. I didn't compose or do anything creatively there. I just wanted to go support them and hang out and kind of reconnect. Also, there were some really amazing songwriters and producers that I had, collaborated with or talked to or just knew at the beginning of my sync career in like 2008. So it's like 15 years ago, basically. So it's just crazy kind of to run in some of these old faces. That I just, had some really great connections with way back in the day, and met a couple of you guys. Justin Rogacki, he kind of came into the room. He was actually one of our first syndicate members back in 2017. And he kind of comes in the room. He's like, I know that voice. And he just gives me a big hug. And I'm like, oh, hi. I'd never seen him. I don't think I'd seen his face before because we'd just been emailing. And I don't know if we had Facebook back then, but I couldn't have picked him out. We had a lot of members. So he's like, oh, Justin Rogacki. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. So it was just really cool to kind of, again, just like what we did with Sync Up, just to put a face, a real human 3D person to the names and the email addresses that I've been kind of knowing you guys by, and here actually on YouTube as well. It's just always cool to connect with you guys on a real person-to-person basis. So kudos to Trevor. Also connected with Mike Giannotto of Reverse Play out there. You guys saw I posted the picture of us hanging out together, and it was really, really cool just to connect with those 2 in person. And Mike and I are certainly brainstorming right now how we're going to put together a sync boot camp where we can kind of go through your guys' tracks in person, give you guys personalized advice. You can ask us questions. We can kind of be in the same room talking about it. I think that's going to be a much richer experience than just doing it through a Zoom call or a video review, which is kind of the best we can do right now in our virtual offerings. But being in person, I think will take us to that next level. And not only that, we would like to be able to go into your DAW, because I think if we can go to that next level of really opening up all your tracks and saying, hey, what are you doing right? Or where are your choices kind of steering you the wrong way? I think we can really help get a lot of people out of their own way, because some people are probably making their lives way harder than they need to. Also maybe in just file organization, track organization, and also just kind of asking you guys and walking you through philosophically, why did you choose these drums? Why did you choose this synth? Why are you adding these different elements to your track? And we can kind of start talking to each other about why we're making certain choices that we are. And if there's not really a deep thought process as to why we're making them, we can basically start to help you develop those, basically kind of create your own philosophical narrative for why you add certain things. Because one of the biggest mistakes that I made early in my career, and I see it made over and over again by a lot of you guys, is we all want to think more is more. Let's just add more stuff to the track. It's not feeling good yet, so let's just throw in more drums, more strings, more horns, more guitars, more whatever. And by the end of it, the track just starts really, it sounds overcrowded, and it also just sounds poorly written, right? It's just not a great writing job. It's just kind of like you had a decent kernel of an idea, and then you just threw in a whole bunch of ornaments on top of it, and it's just really flashy and loud and attention grabbing, but it's not really well crafted, right? So a lot about our craft comes down to just less is more, getting away with as little instruments as we possibly can, and still delivering a high quality output. That's really where I think our philosophy needs to go. So I think that's going to be a really great opportunity for us to connect with you guys on it. So we put out a couple of videos, one just yesterday, and if you guys are interested in doing that, I know I've had 2 people so far saying like, save my spot, I'm going to be there, but we can't save spots. Sorry, we can't do that. But I will definitely let you guys know when we're about to, release some data or some, price points on it, and what the date is going to be, and just all the details for the event. So we'll definitely let you guys know ahead of time before tickets go on sale, before we actually get those spots taken up, because we're leaning right now towards just 5. 5 is probably going to be a good amount to just start off, especially as our first event. We were thinking maybe 10, and then Mike and I both talked afterwards. We're like, 10 probably is going to be too much. It's going to be a single day. It's not going to be a full weekend. I think we can build this kind of event into a full weekend where it's sort of like a camp. But I think for our first one, it's just going to be like a single day, a single, basically 9 to 5 full day of working and focusing on making our music better, possibly. So that's what we're going to be working on. So Isomatic, Natuno, and Yele, what's up, man? Seamus, Justin, and Kajai. I don't know if I got your artist name there right, but welcome all of you guys. I'm glad you guys are here. If any of you guys have questions about sync licensing or about the sync bootcamp or about anything, I'm just here hanging basically for a bit, and I'm here to just be useful to you as best I possibly can. So don't be shy if there's something that's kind of confusing you about the sync industry, about getting started, about libraries, royalties, AI, whatever it is. I do have a cool thing coming up. Let's see, next week. Let's see, what is today? Today is we're on the 5th. Okay, so next week, it's this Saturday. This Saturday, we have our next Sync Connect session with Audio Socket. So Jen Miller, who was the one I had on my channel a couple of weeks ago, she and 3 of their team members of Audio Socket are going to join us. So we're going to get a lot of insights from one of the bigger players in our business. So that's this Saturday. I'm really excited about that. And then the following week, Jen, also from Audio Socket, is going to be kind of doing this sort of 1-hour Q&A session all about AI and music and licensing and basically what we can all do about it, what we think we can maybe do about it. So I'll send you guys out that link. I'm going to share it with all of you guys probably closer, maybe first thing next week. But stay tuned for that. That'll be kind of interesting because basically it's one of these things where any artist or producer or composer can come in and post any questions they have about AI. I'm not saying that I'm like some AI expert or anything like that, but I've definitely done a lot of research on it, and I think I've got a good pulse on what it can do and where it can be potentially very disruptive for us, and what we need to sort of be, taking our humility pills for and figuring out where we need to steer ourselves to ensure that we're going to be very profitable and relevant in the future in the face of this very disruptive technology actually coming into our world. So I'll share that with you guys. Jen's doing some really, really cool stuff behind the scenes. I won't share all the specifics of that, but she's one of these kind of like champions for composers and songwriters and artists like us. She really wants to get ahead of the AI stuff, get some solutions going, get some people talking about it, at least starting to create some sort of kind of a narrative that really helps fight for our interests, rather than kind of what happened for the Napster days, which was that labels kind of just fought the file sharing and MP3 technology, and eventually, what happened was Apple, a tech company, had to come in and step in and offer an app store, the Apple Music Store, which basically solved the problem for the music industry. So it wasn't even the music industry that got to offer the solution that was in their best interest, and then the artist's interest and the publisher's interest and all that kind of stuff. It took a tech company to come in and do that. So Jen and I when she pointed that out, it was totally made it clear to me. I was like, yeah, if we don't do this, like if the music industry or the sync industry doesn't take hold of the narrative in some way or start talking about creating solutions for this, then it will be a tech company that basically decides our fate. Like they are going to create the new whatever the platforms are to create this music, or register it, or keep it safe, or whatever. I don't know what these solutions are going to look like. But if we're not doing it, it's probably going to be a tech company, because they're the ones that are driving this right now, right? They're the ones that have the technology that's putting these AI applications together. So it is incumbent upon us to basically wrap our heads around this, get curious, get open about it, and start to figure out how we can kind of drive our solutions, or try to create it so it's like it feels like it's cohesive and it's collaborative, and it's not basically just eating away at what we do, right? That's what I think a lot of us are feeling right now, that it's like these like non-musical entities, these non-musical tech companies are just kind of coming in and going, we'll just take your work over for you. And it's like, whoa, let's hold on a second there. Let's see if we can make sure that things feel like we are being included in this process. And if we can't be included in it, what can we do to essentially rearrange our strategies and our priorities here? So that's what my point of view on all this kind of stuff has been. All right, Natuno has a question. Do you think I have a chance of being accepted with Latin hip hop? He said Latin login. I think he just meant Latin hip hop tracks, like bossa nova and samba mixed with hip hop, because I'm Brazilian. Absolutely. In fact, I would say that puts you at a higher tier of licensability, because that is so rare. That's really actually not easy to come by. If you can create that kind of thing, like an authentic Brazilian style, or multiple styles, multiple Brazilian styles, and you infuse it with like a contemporary hip hop sound, you're going to stand alone. You're basically going to be your own competition. Nobody's going to really step into your lane. Very few people, I should say. There might be some others that can do that. But boy, that is going to be something that's really, really very rare. Yeah, and you were saying like libraries will probably expect Brazilian music from a Brazilian guy, and you should use that. That's your asset. Absolutely. And one thing that I encourage some of you guys to get into it, but I also want to discourage is because world music, it was actually one of the libraries I just recommended in Sync Edge at the beginning of September. World music is obviously very licensable because it is something that is rare to come by, and it's something that it provides such a very specific mood, or because it's also giving you a geographical, cultural feeling, not just an emotional one. So it's adding this other element of production value to like a TV show or a commercial or something like that, right? But what I don't want to encourage you guys to do is just because that's a high quality, very licensable style or whatever the world music you got your eye on, you also have to really deliver it authentically. Like you cannot just go buy a plugin, like a Middle Eastern, plugin, and make music like how you've been making music and think that it's going to pass for an authentic Middle Eastern world track, right? Like you really have to have that in your bones, or you at least to have had a lot of experience in that country, or maybe you just listen to that style of music all the time, so it's just kind of flowing through you. So don't try to just fake it. I would say really try to get into the authentic version of it. And if it's just something that's not coming out authentic, like after you click play on the track you experimented with, you go listen to a reference track and yours just doesn't feel like it's really coming from that side of the world, don't mess with it. Okay, we don't have time, and I don't think that we have any sort of play anymore for composers faking their way into world music or something like that. You really got to make sure that it's absolutely coming from that place. So you're in a great position. So definitely do that, because you got to always remember, and you can maybe start thinking about structuring your tracks this way, Natuno. You're going to have your full track, which has the hip-hop elements and the Brazilian elements, right? The percussion and the instruments and all that kind of stuff. You're going to supply your library with a version of all those Brazilian instruments muted. So it's just going to pretty much be a hip-hop track. So with every single track you submit to a library, you now have a minimal hip-hop track and a hip-hop Brazilian one. So you're basically getting two birds with one stone. You're actually going to be getting two opportunities for placements out of one piece of music. So that's another reason why you've got another kind of feather in your cap. That's a really, really smart play. So absolutely go in that path. So, hey, Rob, what's up, man? Glad you joined us. All Father Beats. I've been changing your life. Right on, man. I'm really glad to hear that. But I don't take too much credit, because I think you guys are obviously doing all the work for whatever you guys do. So I really do appreciate that, man. That's really cool. For all of you guys that have done something beneficial from listening to me, give yourself a pat on the back, because that is basically where your success is really, really coming from. I certainly can point you guys in a direction and try to steer you away from some of the common mistakes I make out there, but it's really you, obviously, that's doing that work. So make sure, this is a really important piece of advice, make sure you celebrate your little wins, okay? So I had a couple of members say, hey, since I've been working with you, I've been starting to get consistent royalties. It's not a lot, but hey, it's a lot more than I had before. And I always want to point out, like, you're absolutely right. Like in the beginning, it doesn't seem like a massive amount of crazy income that you're getting. But hey, if you're making something, like it's working, like literally the music that you're composing out of your home studio is going through the pipeline, through your music library partner, and then coming out the other end and literally landing in your bank account, even if it's, like for me, my first one was 14 cents. Celebrate the hell out of that, okay? Give yourself a big ice cream cone, go get a nice big cup of coffee. I don't know, whatever it is that you feel. Like really don't like under emphasize those kind of little key markers, because a royalty check is a royalty check, and it's one thing that most producers and composers, I would imagine, have never even seen in their lives. So even if it's not a large amount, the fact that you've got a royalty check with some money on it, that's saying a lot about your potential in this business, and it's also saying that something is working. So be your biggest cheerleader, right? I will definitely be one of your biggest cheerleaders, but you need to be the biggest one, and making sure that you are really celebrating those wins when you get them. Doug is asking, what's your thoughts on reaching out to TV film editors to share your music for possible placement? It's a possible play. I think it's kind of similar a little bit, though, to the music supervisors problem, right? So the biggest problem with submitting to music supervisors, apart from them being overwhelmed by tons and tons of people, just check out my music, right? They get those like hundreds of them every day. It's the legal risk, right? So a music supervisor getting random music from random people on LinkedIn or their email address or wherever it is, Twitter, you know, they might be like flatter, that's cool. They might even like your music, but do they know that your tracks are 100% ready to be licensed? Even if you're telling them that, you could say, these are 100% cleared. This is just me. I own the publishing. Take them. Go for it. Let's work out a deal. They don't really know that, right? Because there could have been a co-writer for all they know. There could have been a vocalist that did something, that wrote something or whatever. And then if they take your music, let's say this is an editor, for example, that works at like, I don't know, ABC or NBC or something like that. If they're sitting there with their nice, hopefully well-paid job, I actually don't know how much editors make. I would imagine they make decent money. And they're sitting there and they're trying to go through a whole bunch of shows or edits or whatever they're doing. They're going to get a DM from somebody that says, hey, use my music. And they're like, okay, if I use that and it has legal problems, like literally somebody comes and tries to sue us because it's like we weren't cleared to do that, I'm not going to lose my job over that. So no thanks. Like I would totally, if I were in their shoes, I would say, get away from me with that music. I don't know who you are. I don't know if this is actually really clear. It's really cool. I like it. Thanks. But the other realization you have to have is editors usually are told where they need to pull their music from. So it's not like editors are sitting there going like, should I go to iTunes? Should I do this library? Should I do that? They're going to have like basically an online database of tracks through the library partners that they've partnered with. Sometimes it's just one. Sometimes it can be 2 or 3 different companies. But they're kind of told through the higher ups, this is where you're going to get your music. We've got to deal with them. This is what we want you to start using. So I don't think directly pitching to editors makes a lot of sense. It's for the same reason that pitching to supervisors, I think, runs to the same problem. So hopefully that answers that. Christian Walker is asking, wonder if you have any tips for social media when it comes to branding yourself as a sync artist. Social is your weak points for sure. Yeah. And the same with me, Christian. I am not a big social media fan. I'm not a big social media poster. I see social media primarily as a drug that I'd use as little as I possibly can to get whatever I need to get done, or to share a message, or to talk about something, and I try to get away from it as soon as possible. So I think a lot of you guys probably feel similar to that. That it's if you do get into the social media world, it kind of just absorbs you, and you just feel like crap at the end of it. It's just not a great place to be. So I do, but there's too many to probably share in one video right now. We do have a whole series in Sync Academy. So I don't know if you're in Sync Academy or not, Christian, but we released a whole series of videos that are basically just on these particular subjects, on how do you navigate social media without getting pulled into the rat race of it, without worrying about how many followers you get, how many people clicked on my like, and nobody shared it. Oh my gosh, nobody likes me. All those kind of like anxiety driving emotions that social media can provide for us. We want to stay away from that, but we really want to focus more on, I can give you like the overall philosophy that I have on it. It's really just about opening a tiny window for the world to see the authentic version of you. That's it. But when I say a tiny window, I mean, do not put your dirty laundry on social media. You guys have seen what happens when people share their intimate personal lives with strangers they've never met and probably never will meet in their lives. It's not a smart idea. If you've noticed, I don't know if you guys have noticed, I don't share a lot of my personal life here on my YouTube channel or in anything, right? Some things, when they sort of pop their heads up or it's obviously affecting me in some way, I will share the stories, or something that I feel like can be helpful. But I'm very careful to keep my family off this camera. I keep my family life somewhere else. And now I'm out of the house, literally. I'm in my office because I want to separate my life. I want to have my family life is very sacred to me. It's a very important thing to me. It's my pretty much highest priority in life. And so I keep that very sacred and very private and secret for myself and for my family. So I would highly advise you guys do the same thing, that you don't want to see your social media endeavors as a way to just spill your guts or talk about this or talk about that. There might be a time and place to share all different types of views, but it's really more about like who you're trying to attract with your social media, especially if you're trying to be a sync artist. Well, you want supervisors, you want editors, you want libraries, right? You want the people that are basically looking for content and getting excited or going like, I wonder what's going out there. You kind of want to get those people looking at you. So you certainly want to post about the stuff that you're working on, the sync projects, the music, that kind of stuff. Put some videos together maybe of you creating the music, talking about the struggle of having to finish a track or whatever it is. But obviously it's a window that you get to control. It can be as small as you want, it can be as big as you want. But again, please don't let it, it's like a black hole. Like social media can be this thing that just swallows you whole, and you're then constantly thinking like, well, I want to make a track that's good for social media, right? Like you start thinking that way. You're thinking more about like, is this going to be good for people to watch and like and share? Is it going to get me more social media, validation? And that's really where the scales have tipped too far in that direction. You really want to focus. It's got to be about the music. It's got to be about your authentic, creative self coming through. So there's very many different ways to do it. Yele here, who I don't know if he's still with us right now, but Yele is obviously one of these guys that's done this very well. It's about every day or every other day. He's posting some picture or something of him working on something, either an instrument he's experimenting with, or he's going to some studio session and doing something. So for him, a lot of it is basically he's just kind of showing, I am actively out there. I'm doing stuff. I'm here. I'm there. I'm working here. I'm at home. And so you just get this sense of like, man, this guy is really just around. He's just really doing a lot of great, awesome, amazing work and getting more music released. So that was the reason why I pulled him in, because I wanted him to start helping us out with pro feedback reviews. So just putting yourself out there consistently in whatever type it is, it kind of just keeps you at top of mind for people that might have opportunities for you, might be wanting to look to, accept you into their library, or maybe get you a placement or something like that. So big topic, but that's my overall philosophy on it. It's just kind of like it's the sun. You want to get warmed by it, but don't touch it, because it'll burn you and it can really kill you. It can really destroy you. So be very, very mindful when you do that, Jamo, specializing in shooting for landing a movie trailer is very demoralizing because such high risk and reward, no placements for years. Yeah, any motivation to keep your head up with no wins consistently. Yeah, trailer music is a tricky one. It's one of those reasons why I have said that well, we actually I will share this story. So my personal opinion for sure is that trailer music is one of these things where you're right. It's not just film trailers you can get placements with. It's video games, and even these days, sports promos can use trailer music. So the amount of use cases is actually expanding, but there's not endless amounts of opportunities. So I agree with you there. So it's not been one of these things I've pushed a lot of you guys into. I've only said, like, if this is what's in your blood and you need to do it, then go do it. But if you're like, oh, I've always thought that trailer music is cool, and you're kind of playing around with it and experimenting with it, and I can hear, especially with some of the feedback I've done in pro feedback, it's like, you have a lot of work to do if you really want to get to the level where this is going to be licensable and competitive. I would say steer clear of it, because you'll get a lot more bang for your buck in terms of finding other opportunities. So for you, if you're looking for, you've got probably some great talent in that sort of field. Look for other places that you can steer your talent, right? So don't just look at trailers. You need to think about it in terms of a net, not in terms of like a scope with a little target on it. I made this video a few years ago saying that, a lot of single licensing producers, they go into this industry with a fishing pole, with a single hook. They put it in the water and like, well, I want that trailer placement. I want that big placement, whatever it is. So they're just sitting there holding on to it for years, constantly putting out the same kind of music because they're like, I need those big trailer placements. That's what I want. My approach, and what I'm coaching you guys to do, is to throw a net into the ocean. Don't throw a hook. That doesn't make any sense. You want to be the fisherman with a huge, huge net, capturing all different types of fish. You want some of those stingrays getting in there. You want, of course, we don't want to kill stingrays, but for the analogy, right? You want a little bit of, sturgeon. You want some sharks. You want some octopus. You want crabs. You don't care what it is. It's all seafood to you, right? You're going to have a delicious, wonderful meal at the end of the day, and you're just looking for calories, basically, right? So I see sync licensing the same way, that you don't want to be so pigeonholed in terms of one particular type of content that if you don't get it, you feel like a failure. So rather than do that, look for bigger opportunities in different ways. So for you, with orchestral music, look at sports. Sports use orchestral music all day long, right? So if you can do some hip hop orchestral, you can do EDM orchestral, rock orchestral, create some amazing hybrid stuff. Electro stuff, so many different ways you can do with that. Video games, go look at some video game publishers, try to find some libraries that offer maybe some video game opportunities. That would be something for you to look into. So start looking at it in terms of, you want to cast as many opportunities for yourself as possible and not be so pigeonholed, because you're absolutely right. You run into that situation where it's like, you have that Olympian who's training his whole life to be like in the Olympics, and he gets to it and he goes all the way to the very end, and he basically loses by literally like, a millimeter. And so his entire life's work kind of feels like a waste, because that's the one thing that he trained for, and he basically got that close to it, didn't quite get the gold. And then what do you do with all those skills you had? Like, what are you going to do with that? Well, that's when you hopefully turn around and cast your net wider and go like, well, what other skills can I possibly do with all this experience and all this that I have here? So that's my approach, is kind of creating more of like a system for gathering placements rather than going for a pinpointed particular place to go. So that's my approach to it. Oh, okay. Awesome, Christian. Yeah. Appreciate that. Let's see. All Father Beats. How did I celebrate when I was first able to go full time with music? I usually go and grab a cigar. When I have some big breakthroughs in my career, I like a little thing, and nothing fancy or anything like that, but literally like a Swisher Sweet, like a tiny little cigar from the gas station. The few times I remember when I have these big milestones, I definitely just go somewhere quiet by myself, light up a tiny little cigar, and just kind of contemplate and celebrate what I did, what I accomplished, what was great. I remember one of the last times I did that was we were in the we were running the syndicate program where I was given feedback and opportunities, and we had just secured our working relationship with a really major big library, and I was really nervous and scared and wasn't sure if we'd even get into them. And when they responded within like 24 hours and said, absolutely, we'll work with you, let's go, I was like, all right, I'm celebrating this, because this was just such a big breakthrough, and it felt really good to be able to go back and deliver that good news to the syndicate members and say, hey, this is who we're working with, this is some big time stuff, really cool. So that's how I do it. But, it's not the healthiest way to do it, of course. But, just so you guys know, I don't condone any, unhealthy behavior. Because I work out, I exercise, I eat healthy, I sleep well. I have a very, very healthy life. But once in a while, I do partake in some fun things that, help me sort of just celebrate life a little bit and enjoy a little bit of a nicotine buzz. I'm all for that. So, but whatever you do, like I said, it could be anything. But just make sure that you kind of I think it's not so much about what you do. It's just more important that you bookmark it, right? You kind of just put something in your memory bank of like, oh yeah, I went down, because I still have the memory of me sitting down by a lake, smoking that cigar, and just feeling great about what we had done and just accomplishing that. And it's just this great just memory now of like accomplishment and having a goal and achieving that goal. And yeah, it's just really good for your sort of, your internal energy moving forward into this business. So just make sure you have those consistently. Isomatic, all of our services and the Sync Up virtual event really helped me get to where you're at now. Wow, working with libraries. Very cool, man. That's awesome. I love that. What makes being an everything, every genre producer possible in the sync career? What makes being an everything, every genre producer possible? That's impossible. So I don't think that is possible, Anthony. I think you're asking me how can you be like the everything producer that provides everything to everyone? Impossible. It's like asking, how can you make everybody like you all the time? Well, just ask me on YouTube here. I definitely have had my fair share of haters, people that don't like me, not into what I'm doing. That's cool, no problem. Don't like my opinions on whatever, that's totally cool. So impossible. So throw that one out. You will never be all things to all people. You'll never be the everything producer that can produce all the different genres that anybody could possibly want. That is a waste of time. Definitely don't do that. Focus. Instead of doing that, focus on what you really can do well. Get your foot into the door with a library. Once you're in a library, then you'll see new opportunities that could potentially expand as a result of you getting into that library. That's been my journey. Every time I got into a new library, I came in as the X guy. So the first one, I was kind of like the hip hop rock guy, more like Linkin Park rock music. That was my lane. Any rock opportunities or albums that they wanted, they kept coming to me. As time went on, they were like, hey, can you try to do some rock with orchestral on it? Can you do some rock with some, I don't know, maybe even some, I think we did some world stuff. We might have done some, we did minimal ones too. We did some minimal music that's kind of rock based. So I just started playing around with kind of new genres because I had proven myself to be really high quality, or at least as high quality as I possibly could have been when I first got started. I listened to it now, it wasn't that great, but it was as high quality as I could have been. And so they trusted me to go try some new stuff. So I eventually branched out and started new things. Same thing with the second library I worked with, which was position music. I first started off as the contemporary acoustic pop rock guy. Like I had all these albums that were just basically like acoustic guitar, pop drums, and just kind of almost like romantic but upbeat, pleasant sounding pop music. That's basically where I got into them. Once I had that established, then they started asking, because they already had a rock guy, they already had all these other really talented people. They didn't need another rock guy. But then they said, oh, you do EDM too? I said, well, I've dabbled in it and I'm kind of getting into it. At that time, I was going to a lot of dance clubs and just falling in love with a lot of cool EDM artists and producers. And I said, well, let me give it a shot. So I kind of started to become their EDM guy. So I sort of branched out into other things. So don't worry that you will be the whatever guy, you know, the singular genre guy or girl forever. You will not. You will certainly start to branch out and do new things, but don't start off in the beginning trying to do all those different things and trying to be all different things. Just get your brand established as the hip hop guy, the rock guy, the orchestral guy, the minimal guy, the Americana guy, or the world hip hop guy, as we talked about before. So get that sort of specific genre or hybrid genre nailed in, and then you'll see yourself be able to expand into other genres in the future. Jamo saying a new trend with sync companies is that they are partnering directly with some music supervisors in the company so that it's a machine feeding itself. A library recently had a full orchestra record, and my trailer track's coming out soon. I'm not sure what you mean by that one, Jamo. A sync company? Are you talking about a library? Or are you talking about something else that they're partnering directly with some music supervisors in the company, like in the same company? That's where I'm kind of a little confused there. If you can expand on that, I'm not sure. Production music libraries do partner with and send their music and pitch their music to music supervisors all the time. So that's not a new thing. That's been happening since this industry has been born. But maybe there's something else you're kind of pointing out that I'm not getting. Yele saying, one thing I keep in mind with posting, I'm not doing it for the likes, I'm doing it to spread enough breadcrumbs that people will at some point notice. For the rest, I see it as a necessary evil. Absolutely. I think that's exactly right. It's just kind of constantly putting yourself out there, keeping you top of mind. If you guys noticed, I don't know how many of you guys have been subscribed to my channel for a while. I have been consistently putting out 2 videos, usually, and sometimes more than 2, but at least 2, every single week since 2017, I think. And maybe starting in 2016 a little bit, but I knew it was 2017 was where things kind of started becoming more consistent. Every week for, 6 years, basically? Almost 6 years. 2 videos a week, 2 videos a week, 2 videos a week, 2 videos a week. Why do I do that, right? Do I have that much to talk about all the time? Sometimes I really don't, and I have to kind of pull out some questions from you guys. That's why I really do rely on some of your questions for some of my content. But no, I know that the game that we're playing right now in terms of the social media world is that our attention span is constantly being taken away and into other things. So if I were to only put out videos when I feel like it, and I go, I don't have anything to say, I'll come back in a couple months, a lot of you guys would forget that I exist. Now that sounds like maybe that wouldn't happen, or you're like, no, I would remember. It's like, trust me, because I've been subscribed to YouTube channels that I thought were amazing, and just they stopped uploading for like a week, and then it turned into a month, and then it was like 3 months, and then 6 months, and then all of a sudden they post something, and I'm like, oh, I totally forgot that was a channel that I used to watch all the time, because our brains just are constantly being bombarded with new stuff and new content and new creators and all that kind of stuff. So to maintain relevancy in this world now, it's a necessary evil. Yeli is absolutely right. You have to put those breadcrumbs out. You have to constantly it's like a little drip. It's like water torture, basically. Drip, 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 drip. It's kind of all you're saying to everybody. It's just, I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still here. Not every post you're going to make is going to be the best and most amazing inspirational post you've ever created. And that's not what you should be looking for. You should just be looking for that system where you can consistently just remind people, I exist, I exist, I exist. I do sync music. I do sync music. I do rock music. I do hip hop music, whatever it is you're doing, right? So that's pretty much what it is. So you're just constantly putting this little bit of a feeler out there. I like how you put that, like breadcrumbs. You're just kind of dropping breadcrumbs all over the place consistently all the time. You never know who's going to pick one of those up and go like, I want to hire you because I've got a great project, or I want to work with you. I've got some great opportunities for you. I love what you're doing. I love your philosophy. I love your work. You kind of want to let people see your personality to the point where they go like, I like this guy or this girl, right? Because if they like you, they're going to want to work with you. And if they feel like, wow, this is kind of like a mini celebrity I'm working with because they're doing a lot of social media stuff, it adds to your value, right? We have to kind of accept that that's really where we're going at this point. With generative AI music, it has no social media value, no social presence, no connection emotionally, no connection socially to us at all. It's just music, right? But if I had an opportunity and I can either place an AI track or I can get Yele a placement, who do you think I would want to place, right? I would want to support the people that I've got a relationship with, that I feel like, hey, you've been really a great asset to my company for all these years. I want to give something back to you. So human relationships really are still going to steer our game in many ways in terms of keeping us relevant. But you can't have that relevance if you're the quiet, shy, behind the scenes, I don't want to do social media, I'm not going to play that game, I'm going to be down here. We could have done that for a long time, but I just think that AI completely changed the game for us that way. It's, like it or hate it, I just think that that's the reality. We have to kind of wrap our heads around that. The Mix Club, what's going on? Welcome. Anthony, I know it's not optimal and has flaws to everything. I just love all music and love to make new emergent music trends. Right on. Okay, so Jamo's saying the music supervisors have a partial ownership of the library. Huh, that's interesting. I haven't heard of that happening yet. So the briefs are for the music supervisors inside the library, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I'm wondering how you're saying that maybe that's... Oh, Oh, so basically the music supervisor is buying into a catalog, and then when they have opportunities, they're going into their own catalog because they have an incentive to get them placed. So I could see that, and that might work out great for the people that are in that catalog, because then there's just going to be more opportunities for them to get placements. So yeah, that's an interesting development. I'm not sure exactly what I think about that, but it doesn't sound horrible. Any preferred email follow-up management system or software platform? No. I mean, the best system is basically just have a calendar. If you're sending an email to a library and you're submitting your tracks to them, basically just set an alarm for yourself for a week, or just put it on your calendar on your phone, and just 1 week, send a follow-up email. Did you guys get it? What do you guys think? Also, make sure you include the original links in the original email so they don't have to go searching through their inbox. If you don't hear from them in like 2 weeks, I would say just move on to another company. But yeah, I mean, I know Trevor was talking about, there's some software that actually shows you when people read and open, or at least open your email. It doesn't actually show if they read it. They can't scan people's eyes yet. But I don't know exactly what that is. I bet if you just looked it up online, some plugin, maybe it's for Chrome or Gmail, that'll show you when somebody actually opens up your email. So you can definitely look into that. Might be helpful as well to kind of calm your anxiety if something's been opened or not. But no, just send up your own little reminder and just send them a little polite follow-up a week or two later. Int Grooves, what do I think of the BMI situation? What's the BMI situation? Did something happen I'm not aware of? Let me know, Int Groove. I'm not sure what you're referring to. John, how do I get into sync licensing? Well, first of all, John, you're on the right track right now, and you're at the right place. So welcome to Sync My Music. I think this is one of the best places to get started with sync licensing. I started making beats, but then realized my beats are more like short cinematic instrumentals with elements of ambient, electronica, and hip hop. Awesome. Sounds like you're probably a great candidate for this side of the business. I would say if you're brand new and you want to know for sure if you feel like you're going to be a good fit for it, go to my free course. So if you just go to syncmymusic.com, I'll even put that in the chat right now so you guys can have it. There is a free course. It's my sync starter course. It's a 5-part course. You can watch all of them right now, or you can just sign up and I'll basically send you one video per day if you don't have the time to go through all of them. But that'll basically give you the overview of the entire industry in terms of working with production music libraries, how long it can potentially take to get there, what kinds of realistic income you can expect, and basically kind of the workload that it's going to take for you to get to where you want to go. So go through that free course, because by the end of it, if you feel more energized and more excited, then sync licensing is probably a good fit for you. If by the end of it you go, oof, there's a lot of stuff in this that just doesn't feel right to me, and I don't know if I had it in me I don't know if I'm that excited about it. It's good that you get that out of the way now. I do not want any of you guys to waste any time in this industry on sort of like false hopes that you're going to become some multimillionaire in 2 years or something like that. I even had one Sync Academy member come in the other day. He was introducing himself. And in his little intro, he said, I would like to make full-time income in sync licensing in 1 year. And I had to point out to him, that is not possible. And how did you get into Sync Academy even thinking that was a thing? Because maybe I haven't been clear enough on that. I need to get more clear, I guess. But I think most of you guys realize that you've got to really put in some work to this business to make it pay off for yourself. Most people do this just part-time, just for the sheer fact that it takes so long to get those royalties built up. And how long can you make somebody work without getting paid? That's just a hard thing for anybody to do. So I don't really blame anybody for bailing out or feeling this isn't the right fit for them. But for those small, like 2 to 3% of you that can consistently show up, as Yele has been talking about, just consistently show up, consistently be there, consistently put your stuff out there, you will start to see more and more opportunities and more doors and hopefully more placements happening. But this is a rough business, guys. This business will kick your butts, and it'll spit in your face, and it'll prove you wrong, and it'll drag you through the mud and make you feel like giving up on music many, many times. So the only way you're going to get through to any chance of having this become successful for you in terms of part-time or full-time income is you got to love music. You got to love creating music. You got to love the craft of making music. And obviously you need to love this process of learning how to create licensable, serviceable music for the briefs and the libraries that you work with. If that's fun, you're going to do great. If that is like teeth pulling to you and it's not fun and it feels like you're selling your soul and it feels like you're not being as creative as you possibly could be, then bail out. Go do something else. Seriously, please don't do this. Don't do something that's going to just make you go nuts and go mad. I hate when I get those messages and emails. I mean, I'm glad when you guys reach out to me and tell me, but it always bothers me when people are like, I've been in this business 5 years and I've only made this amount of money and I've only done this. It's just like, I can hear it that it's like, is this really something you want to do? You know, I want to be your encourager. I want to basically give you guys motivation, but I also want to let you have permission to bail. Like if it's just not, your sanity and your mental health is more important than sync licensing. Way more important, not even close. Okay. So just make sure that you're kind of keeping a temperature on yourself. If it's feeling fun and enjoyable and you're making progress, keep going and I'll keep pushing you, right? I'll keep encouraging you. If it's driving you nuts, making you hate life, making you hate music, and you're not seeing any benefits to it, give yourself a break, give yourself an out. You don't have to do this. There's plenty of other opportunities, I'm sure. And it's probably something in the universe knocking at the door telling you, get out, bail out, go somewhere else. Maybe this is just not the right fit. Yelly was saying BMI wants to sell part of their shares. At least that's what I heard of it. Okay. Anybody have any more details on the BMI situation? I'd love to learn about that. Because I know that they are now for profit. I know that they had hired Goldman Sachs to help them make more money. And I was excited about that because Goldman Sachs, obviously, you can feel what you want to feel about them. One thing they know how to do, make money. They always make money, right? Recessions, good times, bad times, they seem to know how to make money. So BMI asking them, how do we make money? As a BMI member, I was 100% thrilled to hear that. So I'm not sure maybe how this is playing into some of that that they maybe got advised to do or whatever. But if anybody has some sort of insights into that, I would love to know. You can email me too, or just post it in the chat here. And you know what's, I want to, man, I'm so confused as to why YouTube doesn't let me just pull somebody on here for a chat. Like, Yele, I would love to just have you join me right now and just jump on and we could talk, because I know you can do that with Instagram, and it's one of the reasons why I liked doing some of my videos on Instagram, but I'm not an Instagram user. I don't like going on the platform. I feel like it pulls me into that social media wormhole that I don't want to go into. YouTube, I can better manage my time, but it's just so stupid why I can't just click on your button, Yele, and invite you via video chat. Can somebody explain to me why YouTube doesn't allow? It's like the biggest it's the biggest video platform on earth. It's been here forever. And they don't have that simple feature. I just feel like there's some conspiracy as to why that's not possible. Because how cool would that be? Like, I'd love to do like a call-in show, or we could kind of just do, I don't know, roundtable discussions about stuff. But I don't know. I know they have, what is it, StreamYard. There's a couple other services you can do that. But just to have it right here on YouTube, it's just a no-brainer. I don't get why they don't add that feature. Is there good, Jamo's asking about good syncability for horror music? Yes, absolutely. It's not going to be as popular as, you know, reality TV show music or commercial music or something like that. But yeah, there's horror shows, there's horror movies, there's horror trailers. Absolutely. It's just not something that I would say focus 100% of your time on. It might be something you do one album a year on, or maybe a couple of albums or something like that. But probably not your entire career will be based on making just horror music. I just don't think there's enough placement opportunities out there for that. Randon is asking about what do I think about websites like Artlist, who have a subscription royalty-free model, as well as music, as well as getting music on TV. You know, I personally never worked with those kind of companies. I didn't like the royalty-free subscription-based stuff. I've just always been focused on the TV and film marketplace, mostly because I like the higher payouts. I do feel that obviously getting more music on TV, you're going to get higher payouts than the royalty-free market, the stock licensing market. And I love the passive income. Like when you get a track that gets placed on a TV show that can just air over and over in our marketplaces and also go to other territories and other countries, you get consistently paid out for those. Like I'm still getting royalties for stuff that I got placed in 2012 and 2014. Kardashians. I've never stopped earning money from the Kardashians since it went on the air, whatever that was, 2014, 2015. So I just kind of like the idea of the passive income model. So that's why I focused on that. I'm sure some people can make some decent money in the subscription royalty-free marketplaces. I will say the AI models will be the first ones, or those subscription royalty-free, whatever, Audio Jungle and Pond5, all of those are going to be the first places where you're going to see some generative AI music, I think, come in and start competing for some of that income. So just be word to the wise. That's one of those things where I think some people are going to need to rethink their strategy if they're going to be working with a lot of those companies. So Anthony's asking, if I get into a library as the Linkin Park guy, but I feel I have 7 other genres that I'm better at, how do I communicate that to the library? I appreciate so much. All right. So if you get into a library under a genre that you don't feel like you provide that much value to, or at least you provide other ones, there's no problem in letting them know, hey, I want to give you guys a little sample of what I can do as well. That's totally appropriate. So let's say you get into a certain library, you send them some tracks. It's cool. It's not your favorite type of music, but you feel like you delivered something really relevant and helpful for them. Your next email should immediately be, and I think this is for all of you guys, it should be like, Great. We got our contract signed. Thank you so much. I'm ready to go. Do you want more of that? I also can provide these genres. Are any of these interesting to you? And just give them your platter and let them decide what could be useful for them. This is one of these things where we don't really always know what's the most useful for a library, because we might think that we got something great to offer and they're like, it's great. We already got a lot of that though. What we really need is, because we've got this great opportunity coming up, we need some samba music or something like that. And it sounds like you've got like a little bit of a knack for that. Can you crank out a bunch for that? Because we've got this cool opportunity coming on. You'll never know that unless the communication starts happening. And you know, spoiler alert, that's what we're getting with Sync Connect, with my new service where we jump on these Zoom calls every single month. The next one coming up this Saturday with Audio Socket. This is what we're learning from these CEOs. We're asking them, what are you looking for right now? What projects are you cooking up? What clients are you looking to get some music into their hands? What initiatives or what sort of campaigns are you trying to basically serve in the near future, so that we can maybe send you guys the right relevant types of music? So this is the kind of conversation you guys need to have with your library partners after you work with them. And that's basically what you do, is just send off what you can provide and let them pick what they feel is going to be the best fit for their clients, right? Alvalon, how do you say your name? Alavon. Some of your guys' names, I'm just going to butcher them all. Any thoughts on business types, S Corp, LLC, the setup for Sync business, out of state, tax benefits, savings, etc.? Yeah, you can definitely do that. I wouldn't worry about it until you start making some decent money in this business, though. I know a lot of people are asking, like, well, how do I set up an LLC and an S Corp so that I can start writing off all this stuff and do this and that? You can, if you're ambitious enough and you want to go do all that stuff, absolutely go for it. In the first couple of years of this industry, you can certainly just set yourself up as a sole proprietor, just work through your own name, that kind of a thing. I don't think it makes sense to basically start spending money on setting up an S Corp and LLC and all the time and the energy to do all that kind of stuff if the income hasn't been there yet for you. So I don't know. To me, it doesn't make any sense to do that until you actually start showing, oh, okay, sync fees are adding up, royalties are starting to add up. This is actually turning into kind of like a side hustle business that could maybe turn into my full-time income. That's when you can certainly do something like that. So definitely feel free to do that. I am not an accountant. I'm not an attorney. I don't know the tax laws in and out. I have my own accountant, just so you guys know. I have somebody else handling my taxes, handling my business, handling my employee write-offs and all the business write-offs and all that kind of stuff. So I don't get bogged down with all those kind of details. I outsource that to somebody else to take care of that for me. But it definitely saves you money. At least in my situation, it does. So definitely check with somebody and ask them, like, if this is what I'm making, and I sort of reorganized as an LLC or an S Corp and maybe put myself in a different state or did whatever, would that help me out? So just go get some professional advice on that stuff. I don't have all the answers for that. Let's see. So somebody's saying that they're selling that BMI selling shares. Michael's saying that they ditched their plans. So I don't know what's going on. I'll have to definitely go look into that. So I'm not sure what's going on with BMI. I guess I missed that whole news story. Randon's saying, what do you think about working with agents that gotten you good TV placements but take some of the writing share, 15% or so? Do you mean a sync agent, or are you just talking about like a composer, or are you talking about a library owner? So when you say agents, I don't know exactly what you mean. I am not a fan of giving your writer share over to a library to just get your music into a library. And I've seen some composers do that, where they say, hey, I'm in this library. You want to come into this library? You got to give me like 50% of your writer share, like literally half of their paycheck, to just get into a library. Not guaranteed placements, not on a short list for a client or something like that, just into a huge catalog that could potentially get placements. I really don't like that. I feel it's predatory. I'm not into that kind of a business model. I think what you can do is just go directly to music libraries and say, hey, I want to work with you, and basically this is what I can potentially offer you. I have heard, and recently I even had an attorney email me saying that they had a client send music to a library, and the library from the jump, just to get them into the catalog, said, we take 100% of publishing and 50% of the writer share. And I was like, to me, I said, yeah, that's a red flag. I would just bail. I would go somewhere else. To me, and she said, yeah, well, there's other things in the contract. I said, I honestly, I don't need to see anything else in the contract. Like, it's fine to me to basically say, listen, we're going to keep our fair share, and we're going to keep half of your share to keep ourselves in business. You should be doing better business than that, right? You should be making enough money with your placements, sync fees, publishing, whatever it is, that you don't have to dip into the writer share, right? If that's what you're having to do to stay in business, maybe you're not doing business right, right? Or maybe you're not doing enough business, or you're not getting into the right opportunities in your TV and film clients. You need to do better so that you can give your writers what is theirs, which is basically 100% of their royalties for creating the music. So I'm not a fan of that kind of thing. What I will say, though, is I had opportunities where this is one of the ones that I'm working on right now for that major sports client, is in order to get those placements, to get ourselves into a short list, the sports network has to keep the publisher share. That's their incentive to use our music, because they can basically make the money off of the royalties. So that means the library getting me that opportunity has no publisher share. So in order for us to make this work, they have to come in and split the writer share with me. So again, some people will say, hell no, I'll never split it. I don't take it. The way that I see those kind of opportunities is sign me up, 1,000%, I'll take it. I see that as taking half of a watermelon. How big is a watermelon? Big old watermelon. As opposed to, no, I want to keep my 100% of my grape. And the 100% of the grape in this one is my track sitting in a catalog not getting placements. Yes, I got 100% of my writer share, which results in no money at all, no placements. But if I just go, all right, let's split a watermelon. Well, now I've had thousands of placements through this network, and we're going to continue to get more thousands of placements. It's resulted in a lot of new income for me. Yep, I took it. I took that 50% cut, took that paycheck cut, but it was a win-win-win. So the network is winning, the library is winning, and I'm winning. So when you create those scenarios, then I'm much more flexible with it, because we're on a short list to get specific exclusive placements with a particular client. But just to get my music into a catalog, forget it. No, it's really never worth it for that. For me, at least, I would never say that's worth it. Why doesn't Netflix pay as much as broadcast if the viewers are just as large? Are the viewers just as large? I don't know if they're releasing those numbers, Jamo. So I think that's one of the contentions now with the writers' strike, and probably the actors' strike, is that I don't think those numbers necessarily are being released. So nobody really knows really how well certain shows are performing. The other element as well is the advertising revenue is not there as much as it is for cable TV. My prediction is I do think that you're going to see this kind of adoption of more ad tier subscription base for all these streaming services, because they're realizing the limits of what they can really do. If they're just getting subscriber fees, they're really not being profitable that way. So they have to, if they want to keep making new content, releasing new content on their platforms, they got to go above and beyond, and they have to start adding some more ad revenue into their platform. So I think as you see that happening, you'll see some of those numbers go up a bit. So I think in the long run, it'll actually kind of even itself out. Doug is asking, is there a way to figure out what music libraries are getting synced the most in 2023? Yep, and it's the one service that I just created. It's Sync Connect. So if you want to know what's happening behind the scenes with multiple music libraries, you need to join us in Sync Connect, okay? So every single month, what we do is we bring on a new library CEO and we ask them these questions. What kind of tracks are getting placed? What projects are you working on? What do you need? That kind of thing. Aside from Sync Connect, trying to basically reach out to a CEO or to a library employee and saying, hey, I know you don't know me. Can you just let me know what's going on behind the scenes with your company in terms of what music's getting placed? There are, I think, what is it, TuneFind? There is a website where you can find some of the relevant commercial placements and that kind of thing, and maybe some of the TV show placements, but it doesn't have everything. So there's different probably elements you can kind of piece together a little bit, but probably the best thing to do is turn on your TV, and just watch a good sampling of different TV shows and commercials, and just kind of start to get a feel for what's going on. The Super Bowl is always one of the fun ones where it's like one day where you have the kind of pinnacle of advertising, basically. That's just like the biggest basically payday for all composers. So it's kind of interesting once a year to kind of put your finger on the pulse of what music is being used in there. It's not a comprehensive view of what happened throughout the year, but it definitely has some indications of what's being used and what people are really drawn towards in our industry. So, but yeah, doing your own research, watching TV shows, joining us in Sync Connect gets you directly in contact with the people that know this stuff. So I think it's the best bet to find out that kind of information. John's asking, can I succeed in sync licensing if I don't compose with a specific licensable structure of composition in mind, i.e., can I just do my own creative compositions and pitch them to libraries? Will it work? Probably not, John. Sorry to be the bubble burster here. We need to create production music, okay? We're not just creating music, right? That's the one thing that I need all of you guys that are new to this business to kind of wrap your heads around. We're not just throwing together tracks that we're excited about and throwing it to a library and go, hey, make something out of that. what we need to do is make production music. Production music is called production music. It has its own name because what we do is we're creating something that can be useful and licensable and placeable for a TV show, movie, commercial, trailer, whatever it's going to be. So if you're not willing to kind of learn some of these golden rules that we teach in Sync Academy and all the stuff that I teach you guys basically here on my channel, then it probably isn't going to work out for you. Because if that feels like, ooh, I'm sacrificing my creativity, or I'm kind of selling out, or I'm just sort of like, I'm sacrificing too much of my, internal energy for my creative spirit, then yeah, sync licensing, just stay away from it. It's just not going to be the right fit for you. There's a certain type of producer or composer that can get energized by that, by getting feedback, by using a reference track, by knowing, oh, how do I make sure my track is actually going to get potentially used in place with some of these opportunities? If that's exciting for you, then great. But if that it really doesn't feel good, then yeah, I hope you can kind of maybe make that decision today and decide whether or not this is going to be something you want to go in. So. Jamo saying or asking, do you recommend going for those 24-hour crazy turnaround custom pitches that might come your way? Absolutely. And in fact, if you're not willing to do those 24-hour turnaround custom jobs consistently, I'm not saying every single time, there's going to be times where life gets in the way or whatever, but if you can do it, you better do it, right? And the reason why is not so much even about getting the opportunity, it's about showing your library partners that you're a team player. It's one of those things that's funny. When we were just hanging out with Trevor's company over the weekend, his company's called Get It Done, and I never knew this, but the reason why he called his company Get It Done is because he said of all the people that he's known in this industry, the only ones that succeed are the ones that get it done. They're not the talented ones. They're not the most trained producers, not the best mixers, not the best masters, not the best at anything. They're just the ones that literally like turn it in, right? When it's like, hey, this is due at 5 o'clock, can you do it? And the few people that just get it done, they're the ones that usually end up with most of the placements and most of the opportunities. So yes, not only should you do it, it's like a must. It's a mandatory. You must participate in those short turnaround opportunities, and you can do it. You'll figure out what's too much and what's crossing line in terms of causing you some mental health issues. But they're fun. They really, really are fun. The ones that I've had in my life, they're exciting because you see sometimes some big sync fee payouts, some potential opportunities for big exposure, and it just gets you creative juices and your motivation just through the roof. So I always see them as gifts. They're not necessarily burdens. They can be stressful, but they're usually really more fun than they are not. At least that's how I've seen it. Paul's asking, what did you and your family do when you decided to go in on production music to give it the best chance? Any sacrifices you made? Anything to avoid? Yeah, well, when I got started, Paul, it was 2008, so I didn't have a family, didn't have a girlfriend, I was just a single guy living, in an apartment, essentially renting a room. So I had a very simple, stripped down life. So yes, I made a lot of sacrifices socially. I had a friend, one of my good buddies, still friends to this day. I just talked to him yesterday, actually. When he graduated high school, he went to Brazil for a year. He was basically like he had a host family, learned Portuguese, like had the time of his life, and eventually like ended up traveling around the world. And like every 6 months, he's like, Jesse, meet me over here. I'm going to Europe. I'm going to South America. Let's go. I joined him for one trip to Brazil, which was a great, awesome opportunity. I'm glad that I did get to go visit with him. But I was the guy constantly going like, man, I'm working on this music, dude. Like I can't go just play around with you. Like he would go to like certain countries for like a month and just like, whatever, do what he was doing. And it sounded amazing and great. And I always felt like I was missing out because I'm like, yeah, I know we're young. This is the time we should be doing that kind of stuff. But I was like, I really want to do this music. I really want to keep building up my catalog. And I'm having fun. It wasn't I was like doing it just to do it. I was like, I kind of like doing this probably more than I do just going around the world and doing all the things that he was doing and traveling, all that kind of stuff. So I paid that sacrifice where it's like I didn't do a lot of traveling. I was mostly a homebody. I was mostly just working out of my home studio, reducing my costs as much as I possibly can. Obviously, almost never eating out. If I did, I was getting like the appetizer, especially in LA, those prices are a little bit high. So I'd always just only get an appetizer. I'd never get like a full meal. I would always just completely just, counting my pennies anywhere I possibly can and just keeping my living expenses as small and as low as I possibly could. So absolutely, I made a lot of sacrifices socially, financially, and lifestyle-wise or whatever. But wouldn't trade it at all. Like it was totally fun, and I was getting just my high from enjoying making music and seeing my career grow and starting to see those royalties and coming in and seeing these cool opportunities. I remember when I first got one of the biggest placements I got in the early years was The Voice promo. It was on a commercial, and the library owner heard about it. He sent me the little link. He's like, check it out. This is your track. It's in the background. It was like, just that one little moment, that was worth the years that I put into it at that point. It'd probably been 3 years I'd put into it. And I was like, yep, I'm doing what I want to do. This is exactly what I want to see. To know that like millions of people just got, heard that. I'm getting paid for that. Like, it was just so cool. It was finally to be able to break through something in the music industry. I tried for so many years, so many different ways, but I finally found the way to break through to actually see checks, contracts, and real exposure and real opportunity like that. So yes, I would say whatever you guys are doing right now, you're going to need to sacrifice financially, socially, also some family stuff. And that's where, I've always, especially now as a dad of two, be very mindful of that. Okay. So some sacrifices are not worth making. If it means that your relationship with your kids is going to suffer to the point where it's going to be very hard to, salvage it, it's not worth it. To me, it's not. Sync licensing is definitely not worth that at all. I obviously got started before I had kids, so I in some ways I can't relate to some of you guys that have kids and you're just getting started with sync licensing now, because that's a tall order. It's a very, very tall order. You're going to have a lot of nights, a lot of mornings, a lot of weekends where you're not going to be really fully engaged with your family, and that takes a toll on any family. So especially a family who's trying to be engaged with each other, right? So any way you can, waking up early before the kids get there. While the kids are at school, or while they're at like a camp, or while they're doing something else productive or whatever, hopefully you can kind of fit in some time to be productive. But you guys are adults. You guys make your own choices on that. But let's see where we at here. With the amount of cable cutting happening year after year, how much longer do you think we'll be able to make decent profit from cable TV sync licensing? That's a good question. I think it's going to be this kind of thing where it's going to be a slow burnout. It's not going to be like a 1 year. You'll see like all the cable stuff just gone or whatever. So right now, I think I saw a statistic lately that like streaming just kind of surpassed cable. Like it just happened this year or maybe last year. So you can see the trend. It's definitely going to be going down, but we definitely still have a lot of elderly people that are not going to be just cutting their cable. They like their news sources. They like their shows. They like the way that they get their TV. So, how long? I mean, I can see even people that are like, 60, 65 maybe today, not wanting to update and go into a streaming service and do all the other things. And also, you guys have to realize that streaming is kind of in the Wild West right now. Like a lot of these streaming services might be going out of business in the next year or two because they're not making money and they sort of oversaturated the market. People are kind of getting fatigued on signing up for 4 different streaming services. What most people are doing is they're just signing up for one, watching all the content for a month, canceling it, go to the next one, and they're just doing this throughout the year. So like we might find that basically streaming services go down to like 2. It might be like Netflix and one other one or something like that. So I don't know exactly the future of all this kind of stuff, where it's going to go, but I do know that people want entertainment, people want music, people want TV shows, people want movies, people want all these kind of things. So I think there's going to be always a place for us to find ourselves there, but I couldn't tell you a specific time frame on when that's going to happen. So can I submit music to the library after the Sync Connect is over? Absolutely. So this Friday, or this Saturday, we already have those 5 spots taken up. So I'm sorry to let you guys know if you wanted to submit a track for Audio Connect. Those are all done. But yes, so one of the questions we asked during these Sync Connect Zoom sessions is, how can people approach you? Which email should they use? Is there a website? Is there a submission form? How can people get a hold of you? So now that you've gone through this sort of introductory, informative, hour-long Zoom session, you've got insights that everybody else on the outside doesn't have. And so you know exactly how to get a hold of them and how to submit your music to them. And absolutely, you should be. If you find a library that we interview in Sync Connect that you want to work with, you should be reaching out to them directly after our session. John's asking about specific golden rules of licensable structure. Yeah, I think if you just type in, see if I can find it right now. I think you just type in like track, let's see, sync my music, track structures. I'm pretty sure. I also had one that was like what you should not do. Let's see if I can find a better one. Golden rules. There you go. I wonder if there's one that has a, I'm going to give you one here that actually has a track that I'm walking you through. So you guys can check out that one if you want to. Hopefully that works for you. So I have a few. If you go to my channel and just type in track structure, I have quite a few tutorials that tell you guys what you should do, what you shouldn't do. This one is walking you through one of my tracks. So I'm actually just showing you with real examples of like, here's a golden rule. Here's how I follow that golden rule when I produce my track. So hopefully that can be helpful for you. Jamo's asking, how do you balance a full-time job, raising 2 kids under 2, and create the highest quality music to keep feeding the libraries? That is a tall order. I couldn't give you that answer, Jamo. You've got to give that answer, right? So I can't tell you what you need to do. I can't tell you what you need to sacrifice. I don't know what your current schedule looks like how much time of the day is being wasted by maybe some habits that you could let go of. I don't know if you can basically like squeeze in a couple of your chores or errands into one thing so that you're not constantly being overwhelmed by too much stuff to do through. So again, I couldn't really give you that. I think there was one video I had. It was called time management. So it's quite a few years old now at this point. I think I made it in 2018. But I do have one video that was basically on some time management ideas for how to basically squeeze out a little bit more productivity in your days. But I'm in the same boat. I've got 2 kids, not under 2. One of them's just over 2. But to consistently run what I'm doing here and keep them there, it's a lot. It's just a lot. And many days I have to kind of internally find that strength to go like, all right, I can do this. Or sometimes I feel like I can't do this. I need to go take a break. So I'm always constantly at war with that of like, how much is too much? How much is too little? And it's kind of something we have to answer for ourselves. We can't really help each other out so much with that. We can definitely share each other's tips or whatever for how we do it. But, my workflow is different than yours. How I parent my kids is different how you do. We all have these very different variables in our lives. So unfortunately, that's just beyond me. I can't really help you guys out with that. But you just try to find little times throughout the day to be productive. You again find those little wins, little ways to celebrate those wins. The biggest thing you can do is basically get your family on board with what your plan is and what your goals are. If you're constantly like at war with your kids or your spouse with like, oh, they don't see what I'm trying to do, they don't think it's important, they think I'm wasting time, forget it. It's just no matter what you do, you're never going to win if you don't have the people that love you that are on your side, right? You just got to get people that are living with you definitely on your team. How often do I buy new sounds and plugins to keep up with the competition quality tracks? Not too often. These days, I've just now been getting back into producing new music, and I did do a kind of a deep dive for a day, doing nothing but just doing search on YouTube and looking for new plugins and that kind of thing. But I really do keep my plugins limited. I don't want a lot of stuff that I'm working with. I really want to just find the one thing that works great for like drums, guitar, bass, synths, that kind of thing. And I just want to go back to that for many, many, many times. Maybe like when I was more active with it, it would be like every 6 months to a year, I would kind of maybe discover something new accidentally, but only when I start to feel really stale and kind of like I'm not really feeling any of these sounds, and I would maybe go look for something else. But I really find that like if you keep your options limited, you'll actually become a much stronger writer, because then you're not so much worried and focused on the sounds have to be this or that. You really just focus on how do I make what I have sound really, really, really good, and that forces you to become a better writer, not necessarily a better plugin maker or plugin applicator or something like that. But really, how do I make the music with these tools sound really, really compelling? So I think sometimes when you limit yourself, you become a better producer. So Hector, do I still recommend Wix or other newer sites to build my portfolio? These days, what I'm hearing from most libraries is they really like Disco. So I just think you just go with Disco. You can do a Wix site, you can do your personal one. It definitely adds that element of professionalism. So I don't think that's like a bad idea. But I'm hearing more and more from libraries that Disco is kind of like this universal new standard that they're just all used to. And when they get it, they know how to navigate it, and they know how to find everything. So it's just easier for them to process your music. So I think Disco is probably one of those ones you want to go check out. Also, RealCrafter is a great one. We actually had RealCrafter as a sponsor for our Sync Up event. So RealCrafter is also one of those kind of standardized places where you can go get a really quick, high quality video website created for yourself very, very nicely. So either one of those, I think those can be great. So. And Doug is asking, can you submit music to a library after you released it via DistroKid, CD Baby, etc.? Most of the times, yes, Doug, but you definitely just need to let the library know. If they're an exclusive library, which most of them are, they're just going to say, probably, yeah, that's fine as long as they love your music, but you have to say that we will only exclusively represent your music for sync opportunities. So you can keep putting it on streaming, you can do it anywhere else, but don't send this music to a sync agent. Don't send it to another library. Don't even send it to a supervisor. Anybody in the sync licensing world, we need to be your exclusive contact point for sync licensing opportunities. That's usually how they're going to handle that. But just make sure you tell them that when you submit your music to them. Otherwise, you don't want them to find that out later and be maybe unpleasantly surprised. So, all right, this will be our last question. Then I'm going to get back to a couple of things before I head out of here today. Let's see. Any alternate things you would recommend to look into in trying to invest your profits from sync with the intent to grow your additional income and eliminate for a day job, basically buying your time freedom back? Yeah, that's a big topic. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't know if I have any sort of special insights into, building like, passive income or, investing your money or that kind of thing. So I'm probably not the guy that could give you something helpful there, but, investing your profits, Yeah, I mean, I'm not even going to suggest anything. You guys know there's so many different ways, from there's traditional stuff, which is like, you got stocks that you can buy. There's bonds, there's treasuries, there is real estate you can do. There's, art you can buy. There's like literally anything you can literally buy. So I don't think I can give you anything helpful in terms of how to, scale that up. But the general piece of advice is when you start making more money, you obviously, the first thing that I'm glad that I didn't do this, is you don't want to immediately upscale your lifestyle, right? Just because you start making a lot more money with sync licensing doesn't mean you should just go buy a new car, right? Or get a bigger house, or do whatever it is that you're doing now. Get a bigger, better version of it because you can afford a bigger, better version of it. The better play is just to keep your standard of living about the same. There might be some little areas where you can kind of increase a little bit if you've been really scaling down on some of your, enjoyment of life, but you shouldn't go overboard and saying like, well, just the gravy train's just going to keep on coming and I never have to worry about anything again. So let's just go ahead and just spend all of our money and go crazy. The minute that you have a very disappointing royalty check or your sync fees dry up or something happens, your library goes out of business, something can happen, you're going to be really, really in a bad spot because now you've got bigger bills and less income. So basically, less is more. You want to kind of like have your sort of still very humble, basic lifestyle. You don't need much to be happy, to be honest. I mean, I'm speaking from my experience. You don't need a lot. You just need to basically find great stuff that you're interested in doing, cool hobbies, great people. But the lifestyle these days, you don't need extra stuff to kind of make yourself happy. I just don't think so. So there was one question I skipped over. It was memes. I'm not sure what genre I should start to making. I'm good at creating boom bap, trap, rock, and metal. Not sure what's too saturated. All of those can be licensable memes, but you definitely got to make sure that whatever you're providing doesn't feel like it's kind of been done before. So if you can add any sort of originality or even adding some new hybrid elements into those styles of music, then you'll be in a much stronger position in the future. I would just say that hip hop, I don't think you said boom bap. So I'm not exactly sure what that sounds like. Trap. Yeah, trap's one of those ones that I would say of all the ones you listed there that I'm familiar with, trap feels like the one that's probably not the best play, and metal either. I would say metal usually doesn't get tons of placements. Rock is probably, and I'd have to go check out what boom bap is, but rock is probably the one that I would say probably has the best chances because not many producers can do it. Some can do it, but not many. Trap is overloaded. There's tons of hip hop, trap all over the place. Metal, not many can do metal, but I don't see a lot of placements with metal. It's just not tons. The numbers are just not there. So I don't know. All right, I lied. I have one more question. This is from Paul. You mentioned getting a family on board. Anything you've seen work well in particular with this? What are examples of what you've seen families do to support the goal? That's a tricky one. Again, one of these ones where I don't know if I can give you like a script that would help, convince people in your life. But I think if you can just be honest about how important it is to you, right? To say, listen, this is something that I had one member that even came to sync up, and he had been feeling it just in his life. He felt like this sense of, like just unfulfilled. Like he wasn't being very creative. He was working a great job, making great money, supporting the family, but he just kind of felt like, this is sort of, I don't know, my life, I just don't feel like very fulfilled in it. And then when he stumbled into the sync licensing, he kind of remembered and rediscovered his love and his joy for making music. So the way that he sold it to his family was, listen, this is going to make daddy happy again, right? Daddy hasn't been happy for a while. I feel very happy when I'm starting to make music. So my energy for the family will actually improve as a result of me taking a little bit of time throughout the week to do this. Secondly, he would take some of those times when he was creating music and have his kids get involved. So either they would help him record or they'd at least be in the room and he'd be talking them through why he's doing what he's doing. So he literally created as a bonding moment with his two boys. I think he had two boys. So that's sort of an airtight case, right? I don't know how any wife or any partner can argue against that, to say like, this is going to improve my energy. It's going to make me a much better partner. It's going to be a much more present person in this family. And I'm going to figure out a way to kind of get the kids involved or get the wife involved. You make it kind of a family endeavor, not maybe all of it, but for a part of it, man, you can really sell it very quickly that way. So talking about how important it is to you and also talking about the benefits for them, right? I think that's also a big thing that you can kind of help push into it. But every relationship is different. Everybody's got a different partner. Everybody's got a different communication style. But I think the worst thing you can do is just start doing it and not talk to them. And just suddenly, look, where's dad? Dad's been like missing for the last 4 hours. Like, you don't want to just lock yourself away into a studio and not talk to them about what is dad doing? Why is he in there? Why is this important? Why is that door closed? Why is it locked? Scheduling things out can really help to let them know, hey, between the hours of 5 a.m. and 7 a.m., dad's going to work on some music and you can't bother him unless it's an emergency. Nobody bothers dad. He's got his phone off. Nobody can talk to him. You know, those kind of things where you just have some kind of set rules throughout the day so that everybody has the expectations of what is going to be allowed in the scenario. So hopefully that helps. But really, it's really got to be you having communications with the people that you love. That's really what it's got to be. So. All right, I'm out. You guys have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much for your great questions. I hope that I provided something helpful for you. Please do check out Sync Connect. You just go to syncmymusic.com/connect. If you'd like to join us, we have, I think it's about 11 spots left for the discounted rate. Once those 11 spots are gone, it's going up to $39.99 a month. But right now, it's just $24.99. So you basically get a $15 a month discount if you join us now, and you get access to Audio Socket this Saturday, and then also the previous two libraries that we had. We had Flick Tracks and Get It Done, Trevor from Get It Done for the last ones. And you can rewatch those. Those are all available for replay, but only for members inside of the membership area. So make sure you go check it out. syncmymusic.com/connect. Hopefully see you guys in there. Thank you guys so much. Have a fantastic day.